Hi there. I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're having a fantastic day so far. For today's life orientation lesson, we will be talking about substance abuse. We'll be diving into it and figuring out what it is and how it affects our bodies. Okay. So before we start, I'd like to ask you guys a few questions. Just off the top of your heads, can anyone mention to me any drugs um, that you know of? Like something that you've probably heard in a movie or in like a series or on the news. Um, Anything that comes to mind. Okay, okay, okay. No, that's great. That's great. Okay, that's cool. It's great to know that you guys know the names of a couple of drugs we'll be talking about today. Um, so I'd like to ask you guys a question, and I would like your honest thoughts about this. Um, would would you consider alcohol and cigarettes as an illegal drug? Okay, okay, that's very good. Okay, okay, awesome. Okay, yes. Alcohol and drugs is not considered as illegal, right? The reason why it's because it's openly sold and distributed. Um, so there's shops all over the country that sell alcohol, and within almost every store or supermarket, you can buy cigarettes. Um, but the issue doesn't lie with them being widely available or not, or illegal or not. The issue lies with them being overused and misused. When you do that, it affects your body in a negative way. Okay, so let's try and define what substance abuse is. According to the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, substance abuse is defined as someone who uses drugs and alcohol to excess. Okay? So basically, in other words, what it means is someone who overuses drugs to an unhealthy extent. Okay? So already off the bat, um, drugs are illegal, and um, when you are taking part in them or caught using it, you are taking part in an illegal act. And when you are caught with drugs in your possession, you will be taken to prison. Okay? But beyond just the legal ramifications or the legal consequences to you using drugs, there are also physical consequences. Um, there's also different ways it affects you and affects you health wise. Okay? Um, abusing drugs um affects you physically. It affects uh your body. It causes you to have and become addicted to these drugs, and it's very difficult to let go of these addictions once you are an abuser or once you are addicted to these drugs. And that's why we have rehabilitation centers all around the country in different cities to help people um, uh, uh, get rid of this addiction or this desire to constantly be high or be using drugs. Okay, so let's look at the different drug groups um, that we we commonly find. Okay, the first one is cannabinoids, right? Um, this is a naturally grown drug such as cannabis. Okay, cannabis is another word for cannabis is marijuana, uh, or weed or dacha. This is usually smoked or ingested in the form of, muffins or CBD lollipops and gummy bears and cookies, etc. Um, the next group is hallucinogens. Okay, this refers to drugs that cause hallucinations. It's also known as psychedelic drugs. Okay, what that means is, okay, does anyone here know what the word hallucinate means? Okay, can you define the word hallucinate? Okay, okay, almost there. Almost, yeah, almost there. Okay, so to hallucinate basically means to see something that's not there, right? Um, so for example, if I open up my eyes and I'm like, wow, um, here's a ghost in front of me, right? And I'm like, oh, there's a ghost. And someone else says to me, no, there's nothing in the room. You're the only person in that room. I'm hallucinating that there's a ghost or there's a creature or there's whatever else in the room. So when you use the hallucinogens, they cause you to imagine and see other things that aren't there. And there is a good feel good there is a feel good factor to it, and um, but there's also a very dark factor to it where people can get extreme nightmares, and it can be really horrific. Excuse me. An example of one of these hallucinogens is the drug called LSD. The third group is inhalants. These are substances that have a very chemical scent that people would inhale or breathe in. Examples of these are painkillers, benzene, and glue. Okay, so these drugs or these substances are commonly available in hardware stores, in shops, and whatever. And the reason why people use them is because they have a very strong chemical scent, and when inhaled, it brings a sense of euphoria and a high. But the danger is, along with those chemicals that bring upon that high, there's also harmful chemicals that can affect your body in a negative way. So yeah, there's the good is very very small in comparison to how it can affect you negatively um, going forward. The fourth group is opioids. Okay, these are drugs that are made from the opium poppy plant. Okay, this is a little flower that is found um, all across the world. It's very common in the Middle East and in Vietnam, and so very common in areas like Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, Vietnam, and um, from this poppy plant, you can get a lot of different medical. There's a lot of different medical uses for 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 this plant. You can get medication such as morphine from it, but also one of the biggest uses for it is to create the drug heroin. Okay. Another word for those of you that have watched a lot of 80s sort of or dramas or movies based in the 80s, you've probably heard the word crack. Um, and that is just another word for heroin. It's a drug that has affected the American that affected America, especially the lower income communities, um, in a huge way, and it was considered a epidemic in the 80s. Um, and the fifth drug group is stimulants. Okay, this is a type of drug that brings sorry, excuse me. It's a type of drug that affects the nervous system and brings up feelings of happiness and excitement. It's usually used as a party drug that elevates the feeling of bliss and euphoria. This good feeling is extremely temporary and can lead to heavy withdrawal symptoms. Examples of this is cocaine, the white powder, and methamphetamine. Another word for methamphetamine is crystal meth, or as we would commonly call it here in South Africa, tik. Okay, yes, as I said, it's used as a party drug. It gives you a great high, um, but there's once the high wears off, you're always gonna be striving for that high again, and can lead to an addiction, can lead to you falling prey to the drug. Okay, a study from the Mercer University in the U.S. Found that in South Africa, there is 13% of South Africans have admitted to using drugs, um, with 3.9 of South Africans getting involved in substance abuse. So using it regularly, misusing it, um, and with 0.6% getting addicted to these drugs. Okay. Um, it also states that cannabis and meth or tik um, are the most used drugs in South Africa. Okay. So I just quickly want to speak about, just highlight again the negative effects um, these drugs would have um, on your body. Okay. Um, so it can affect your body in a multitude of ways. There's hair loss, there's bad breath and wrinkles, stained teeth, heart disease, and even cancer. Okay. Um, so oftentimes the negative effects of these drugs always outweigh um, the good, that little short feeling of high. Um, so even from someone who's a bit older, I would encourage you, please do not get involved um, in the use and misuse of any of the drugs we spoke about. Okay, a 2011 study also showed that between 8 and 30% of South Africans have had alcohol problems. Thus, alcohol abuse has played a big part in violence in our communities, uh, and also in the loss of life by means of car accidents and various other offenses. Okay, so we've all seen on the news these horrific images of cars being wrecked, and it was all brought upon by someone who might have had a little bit too much before going and driving home, and because of that, that person lost their life in a car accident, or might have even killed someone else. because of it. Okay. Um, so so going forward, um, for homework, excuse me, I would like you guys. We've spoken at length about the different varieties of drugs, what they are, and the effects they have on your body, and also the the negative repercussions of taking drugs, how it affects your body, um, how it can result in sickness and disease. So I would like you to create a pamphlet with where you would go and do some research and find information on these drugs. What do they comprise of, and also what the negative side effects are. And basically, the pamphlet would be shedding some light on these drugs, and also will also be used to warn people about the dangers of these drugs. Okay, so it's like just so think about it. You are at the hospital or something, and there's a pamphlet over there, and you open it up, and it tells you don't use drugs because of this, of A B C D E F G. Um, and you can design it however you want to. I would like you to aim it or market it towards people your age, so teenagers. So make it look good. You can use whatever fonts you would like to use, whatever graphics you would like to use. Um, but it is for marks. It'll cost it's out of 50. But I would like you to just go for it, and try your best. Um, okay, so class, um, if you have any questions, please email me. Please come and speak to me if you need any more advice. But that is the lesson for today. I hope you have a lovely day further, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.